everyone, in this video session we're gonna discuss about one of the very important biomolecules known as carbohydrate. Before heading towards carbohydrates, let us understand the term biomolecules. Biomolecules are the molecules of life which may be inorganic like salts, minerals, ions and water, and may be organic like carbohydrates, lipids, amino acids, proteins, nucleotides, nucleic acid and vitamins. So let us come to our topic, that is carbohydrate. Carbohydrates are hydrated carbons, and the carbohydrates are called hydrated carbons due to the presence of similar proportion of hydrogen and oxygen as in water at the ratio of 1:2:1. Which means 1 atoms of carbon, 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atoms of oxygen. So when we talk about carbs, then sometimes you probably heard about people are talking about diets. You know, the people, they say that they try to go low carbs or maybe they want a lot of carbs in their diet. In real, it is a very important source of energy, actually a fast source of energy. So based on amount of sugar, or you can say structure, there are generally 3 types of carbohydrates: monosaccharides, disaccharides and polysaccharides. Term saccharide over here is just another word for sugar. And the prefix mono means single, di means double, and poly represents large number of sugar molecules. So first of all, let us talk about monosaccharides. The monosaccharides are the smaller unit of carbohydrates. You can say monosaccharides, they are the building block or monomers of all carbohydrates. And you know, the monomers are molecules that can be bonded to other identical molecules to form a polymer. So the most common monosaccharides are glucose, fructose and galactose. And by far the most abundant monosaccharide is glucose. The glucose is water soluble. When you dissolve glucose in water, it will form a ring. Glucose is easily transported through organs. It is also an ultimate source of energy for cellular respiration and production of ATP. The second one we have is fructose. Fructose is the primary monosaccharides found in fruits and pulses. And the third one is galactose. They are the primary monosaccharides found in milk. All of these 3 monosaccharides, that is glucose, fructose and galactose, are 6-carbon sugars with the chemical formula C6H12O6. But not all monosaccharides are 6-carbon molecules, as ribose and deoxyribose have only 5 carbon atoms in their structure. Now let us talk about disaccharides. So here di means 2 units and saccharides means sugar. That means 2 units of sugar. Disaccharides, they are formed when monosaccharides are joined together through a dehydration synthesis reaction, and the main purpose of dehydration reaction is the loss of 1 unit of water, forming a glycosidic linkages or glycosidic bonds. So the most common disaccharides include maltose, sucrose and lactose. Maltose is generally known as malt sugar. And maltose is formed by joining 2 glucose molecules. You can easily find maltose through sweet potatoes and cereals. And the next important disaccharide is sucrose, which is commonly known as table sugar. And sucrose, it is formed by joining glucose and fructose together. The other important disaccharide is lactose, which is commonly known as milk sugar. So the lactose is formed when glucose and galactose are joined together. Now let us talk about polysaccharides. So polysaccharides are formed when glucose monomers are linked together to form long chains. So the long chains of glucose units are ideal for storing energy. The chain can be straight or branched. The straight chain is called amylose and the branched one is called amylopectin. Water molecule is also removed during this process. So for now, let us talk about some important polysaccharides. The important polysaccharides are starch, glycogen and cellulose. So the plant, they store energy in the form of starch. You can find some starch in the form of straight chain, that is amylose, or in the form of branched chain, that is amylopectin. And glycogen is a source of energy which is stored in animals. So we store energy in the form of glycogen, whereas plant, they store energy in the form of starch. And the energy is all about carbohydrates. So glycogen is a highly branched polysaccharide, and they can be broken quickly to supply energy to tissues. And you know, glycogen and starch, they are not a dietary carbohydrates, as their storage form of glucose in plant body, that is starch, and in animal body, that is glycogen. And the most abundant polysaccharide is cellulose, which is also known as fiber. Cellulose is a straight chain polymer of glucose, same like amylose. So most of the organisms, they are unable to break down these bonds of cellulose. As a result, they cannot use cellulose in the form of energy. Instead, cellulose, they are used to add strength to plant cell walls. And let me tell you, the polysaccharides like cellulose, chitin, peptidoglycan, they serve as structural molecules in organism. You might have heard about chitin, the structure that makes exoskeleton, molecule that makes exoskeleton in most of the insect and crustacean. But did you know the chitin is a structural polysaccharide found in animals and fungi, and the unique property of chitin is they have amino groups attached to its sugar monomers. Next one is peptidoglycan. They are the complex polysaccharides found in the cell walls of bacteria. Each monomer of polysaccharides has peptide chain attached to it. So often we refer to carbohydrates as being either simple sugars or complex carbohydrates. Monosaccharides and disaccharides are commonly referred as simple sugars, and complex carbohydrate refers to the polysaccharides.